here with Joanne Lara. We were just mentioning what's happening in Louisiana and how devastating it is for so many people in the Baton Rouge area. But I was telling her that Jem and I had just been to the Baton Rouge. Well, we were there for the ASA conference down in New Orleans, but we stayed over a few more days to go up to Baton Rouge because CARD, Center for Autism and Related Disorders, has a Baton Rouge office, and on the 18th of July, they were opening their newest office in Denham Springs, which is a suburb of Baton Rouge.
Right.
So, and the day before that was the day that there was the shooting of the police. It was a really difficult time in Baton Rouge. I mean, they really had a hard time. But we were there, and we got to meet the families and see the new office and meet the kids and the staff, and just they welcomed us with open arms. We had such an amazing time there with them, came home. And now they've had in that new office, up 4 feet up of mud. And of course, with the mud and the water comes all the unspeakable things that you can imagine. So that it's not just cleanup of shoveling out mud, it's extensive cleanup. And these families have lost everything. They don't have soap, they don't have toothpaste. And these are families of people who are therapists working with kiddos on the spectrum who just want to get back to work and have a room to work with. Right. And it's the families of the kids with, little kids with autism that don't have a pair of shoes, that don't have pants, that don't have diapers, that don't have a toothbrush. So all of the CARD offices have picked different families. And so each CARD office, here at corporate, we have 2 families that we're supporting. Okay. But at every CARD office, there's an opportunity, there's a box, and as the box gets filled, they send it off to the Baton Rouge office, and then they drive it to the folks in the Denham Springs area. So, and then if you look on my personal Facebook too, there's a place to donate money, and CARD is up to $10,000 was matching any money that was donated to send to the families. Okay. So I know sometimes we see these things and we think, oh, the devastation, and then we think, oh my gosh, can you imagine autism on top of that? And you think, what can I do? There are other places that you can donate to as well. I'm not saying this is the only place, but if you want to know that it goes directly to a family with autism, this is a way to do that. So
good. On your website and CARD as well.
On my personal Facebook, I have the link, and you know what? I'll either Samantha or I will put that on our autism-live Facebook as well, so that people can have that as well. Good. So, but we said we were going to come back and talk about Autism Works Now. Yeah. This is an amazing thing that you started.
Last year. Yes. At this time last year. We started in September of last year.
Is it only that? It seems like it's a lot longer than that, Joanne. Yeah, because you moved mountains.
Well, 1 year prior, we were putting together the Temple Grandin and Friends.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Autism Works Now. Yes. So that was basically the kickoff event, which was May 20th, 2015.
Yes.
And Temple came, and we honored Temple, and it was a great event, and everyone on the spectrum was performing or presenting, or it was great.
It was a who's who,
and everybody in our community was there, and it was the kickoff for, because Temple spoke about it, is jobs.
Yeah,
and it was kind of, I like to think it was the kind of the beginning of the movement.
Yeah,
because people weren't really talking about jobs for our kids until then. Temple got on her platform. We all started rolling it out. I started, whenever I did interviews, I was talking about jobs. I love the arts, and I want to talk about the arts, but we're really good with the arts now. Arts are now an intervention, an accepted intervention for our kids with autism and related disorders, but not employment. People are like, my kid, he's not going to work.
Right.
That's where we were only a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So we've come a really long way, because the whole country's talking about employment now for people with disabilities, and specifically autism. So what we did was pilot. That was the event was a kickoff for the pilot, which was a 2-year pilot. So we're going into our 2nd year, and we wrote curriculum. My partner Susan Osborne and I wrote the curriculum as we moved through the program. Right. So we have an 8-month curriculum. It's assessment driven. It's a curriculum-based program. We have a book deal with Jessica Kingsley Publishers. We're 35 pages in.
Right.
So we're thrilled that we're writing up a storm.
Right.
All the template for the curriculum is going to be included in the book.
Great.
The Autism Works Now method book. We also received a Autism Speaks community grant.
Love
2016 that helped us a lot.
Thanks to them for that.
Thank you, Autism Speaks. They've been good to my organization.
Yes.
And we're in our 2nd year. And CARD, Doreen, because of Dr. Doreen, We now have we don't have an office overhead. She's generously donated her office space for us to hold our sessions on Thursdays.
Which is
I don't know if you
lovely.
knew that or not.
I did know that that was in the works, but I that was going to be one of my questions that I was going to ask you, if it, like, that all came to fruition and you got that.
It's crazy good. We start on October 6th.
Lovely.
And our sessions are 2-hour sessions from 6 to 8 p.m. And then we're also vendoring with the regional center here in Los Angeles, the West Side, and we'll also offer another session in Culver City.
So for people who aren't in California, I want to translate so you can know, so that you can further go, oh, I'm bummed.
States don't have regional centers.
But for the regional center, when you're vendored with the regional center, that means that there, you know, it is a cost, because it costs you money to be able to train these people.
Right.
But it means that the regional center is going to pay that.
That's right.
So for the family, there's no cost or low cost, but usually no cost, right?
Right.
So that you can get your son or daughter in this program. And if you're watching and you're on the autism spectrum and you go, hey, I want a job, I want to do this, and you're over the age of 18,
17. We're
17.
Yeah, 17.
17.
Pre-employment skills to jobs is basically our mantra.
So 17 and up, and you can go to your regional center case provider and say, hey, I heard about Autism Works Now. I want to be able to do that. And then they can get you signed up for that program. And it will not cost you something. And I think that, you know, a lot of times that alleviates some of the fear. Now, for those of you, though, who are like, okay, wait a second, that's great for California, but I don't have it. Joanne's got the book coming for you. So that then you're going to have to take the book and get busy and started and creating that where you are, but you'll have the tools to do it.
And we're writing the book so that it can be used for educators in a secondary education system. But then that doesn't mean it can't be used in families as well, and parents won't be. It's going to be very user friendly with templates that we use in each of the sessions, because we continually assess during the session. So after they finish a session, a 6 to 8 session on a Thursday, then there's a little quiz. Did you understand what we were what the information was? We want to check for understanding, continually check for understanding, because we want our kids to be. We start with getting an email account. That's the first thing we do, because you can't have a job if you don't have an email account. Right. We also teach through Google Docs, because Google Docs can be synced up to your phone. You can carry your schedule around with you. You can know what you're doing today, tomorrow, this week, this month. You can look and say, oh, I have an interview 2 weeks down the road, or I have an interview tomorrow. What time do I need to begin to prepare for that? When do I leave my home for that? What kind of transportation do I take to get to the interview? How do I get the interview? How do I know what kind of job I want to get an interview? All this is what the curriculum is. We have our candidates, we call them candidates, research the job they want. Not everybody wants to do the same thing. But do you know what that job really looks like? Have you done the research on it? Have you gone to Google? Have you looked at it? Do you understand what it entails? What is a job description? Because these are the things that our kids don't know. And people say to them at 14 in the state of California, or 16 in other states, oh, what do you want to do with your life? They don't even have frame of reference for that question. Now you said she's going to take you to church.
Go there.
You see, because the ITP process is failing our kids.
You got to back up and explain to people what ITP is. Individualized
Transition Plan. Just like the IEP, Individualized Education Plan, the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, in 1996, decided to include an amendment that said, oh, we need to start educating our kids, training our kids as to what they're going to do when they transition out of the public school system at 22 or 18 with a diploma. And so they said, well, how are we going to have accountability for that? And they said, well, we're going to put not only an IEP in place, which we all know what an IEP is. We all go once a year in a room and we say, what are the goals going to be? Where are the present levels of performance for my child? Has he hit his goals? Does he need that goal again? What is it going to look like in rehab and vocational? What is it going to look like in academic? What is his life going to look like socially? As they get older, we're now including what we call the ITP plan, Individualized Transition Plan, We're addressing, what is his residence going to look like?
Right.
Where's he going to live? He's going to live at my house, the parents' house, or is he going to live independently or supported living? What is that going to look like? What is employment, most of all, important of all? What is his employment going to look like? And what is his social life? Those are the 3 domains that are accountable in the ITP. Okay, so you have an IEP, and then within the IEP comes the ITP.
Which in California starts at 14, and in other states, a lot of them, it starts in 16.
The federal mandate is by 16, as per IDEA or IDEA, right. And this is a 2004 amendment, by 16, but can begin at 14. Your team, your IEP team, will now come together, and this is going to be part of what we're now putting our goals towards.
Right. But I just want to say that I never heard of an ITP until you said it. And there are a lot of parents that are watching that have never heard of ITP before, and you might have an 18-year-old. And you might have a 16-year-old and you haven't heard of the ITP.
That's the sad piece.
It is the sad piece. And since you talked about ITPs with Nancy and I, both Nancy and I went off to our IEPs and said, so what is our plan for our ITP?
And that's what you need to do.
Right? And both of us were told, oh, well, that's not until after he turns 16. And I said, nope, sorry, that's not right. And they were like, yeah, no, it is. And I said, no, I'll email you. That's not right. But that is the current way of thinking in our schools, that we will worry about that. We don't even start that until after they turn 16. I remember being old enough to look at the speed limit sign and go, why is it that we think of that as the slowest speed that we go when it says speed limit?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's the same thing with the ITP. It says it needs to be there by 16, and our schools are saying, no, we're going to start working on it afterward. Oh, that doesn't happen till high school. It's after the 16th birthday. And we as parents have to dig in and drive that, because the schools are not, they're not on that page.
Well, it's just more paperwork.
Right.
Because we're looking at another 5 to 10 pages in an IEP process.
Right.
And it means that everyone on the team has to begin to, and everyone on the team is supposed to be determining, including the IEP person, including the student.
Right.
Them at the meeting. Included in the meeting.
Right.
Should be there. Should be at the meeting, because we should first address the individual with, what do you want to do?
Right.
You see, we're spending our whole lives with this individual telling him what we want him to do. And the ITP process empowers the individual again as to what he wants to do with his life. And it also means that his parents, anyone on the team, his caregivers, his educators, his special educators, a peer if a neighbor wants to come in because he's got a job, a business that this individual wants to maybe work at, he's invited. Don't let them tell you you can have anybody in an IEP.
And by the way, they will tell you that you can't bring everybody in the dog, but you can.
And you can. And you also can record it. And I love that piece. But you have to let them know ahead of time that you're recording. But you should always record. Just rule of thumb, you should always record your IEP
The thing that I always say is that when you get the invitation and you respond to the invitation and you check the box and sign that you're coming, write it right on there.
I will be recording.
I will be recording and give it back to them. And then I always follow it up with an email and say, by the way, this is my official notice to you that I will be recording at the meeting.
And they usually respond with, if you're recording, we're recording.
Yes.
So,
and everybody always feels like, oh, but I don't want to make it contentious. Then they think that, I'm going to be a problem. And I always say, it's all my experience is that it's all won and lost by whether you had the tape recorder or not. It is. It is. And you know what else it does? It forces everyone to be civil.
That's right.
I never have anybody in an IEP say the ridiculous things that you all write to me and tell me that I know are true, that people have said to you.
That's right.
And it forces us to go in and be a professional. I have to remind myself, there have been a couple of times when I have wanted to stand up and go, are you kidding me? But I've gone, take that breath. That tape recorder is recording me as well.
Right.
And so we're going to keep it professional and keep it on the up and up. And you know what? That's what drives getting the proper services for your child, keeping it professional, and dotting your T's and dotting your I's, crossing your T's, right?
And just so you know, anyone, this is legal, anyone can stop the IEP meeting at any time.
Oh, that's good to know. I don't think that I knew that.
Legal is all they have to say is, I move to stop the IEP now and reconvene at another time.
Okay.
That's it.
Sometimes you need that emotionally.
One person. It can be the parent, it can be a teacher, it can be an attorney, it can be an advocate, it can be anybody that's there with you. If all they have to do is say, that's it, I move to adjourn the IEP meeting. In other words, if it gets too heated.
Yeah.
Because I've been in many IEPs where it gets, people are beginning to yell at each other.
Yeah.
No, we're stopping the IEP now.
Right. And sometimes it gets to the point where you feel like, you're going to go to the ugly cry. I've been there a couple of times where it was like, I don't know if I can talk because I'm going to cry. When somebody reveals that they have let your child down in the most profound ways,
that's right.
It's like you've been stabbed.
That's right.
Yeah. Like stabbed in the throat, and your voice kind of goes on you.
Yeah.
So good to know that we can say.
Yeah, absolutely legal.
Okay.
And the other piece about the ITP that's legal, and it's supposed to be a federal mandate, I'm letting the cat out of the bag on this one, is there's supposed to be an outside service representative there, meaning Department of Rehab.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I bet that doesn't happen very often.
No, but I was just at a big old meeting where there was SSI, Department of Rehab and Social Services, coming out of Sacramento for California.
Okay.
And one of the Department of Rehab panelists kept saying, we're attending a lot of IEP meetings now. And I kept thinking, why are they, what is she talking about? I've never seen a Department of Rehab person at an IEP meeting. I've been doing it 25 years. And then I said, aha, everything's going to come to accountability now because the laws just changed in July. And they're really focusing in on these ITPs and how the employment is looking for our individuals with disabilities, which is dismal.
Right.
And so why did we 17, 20 years ago put in place an ITP plan so that we could get our kids working? And 20 years down the road, the feds are going, 90% of our kids with disabilities aren't working. I guess our ITP and our IDEA is not working. What are we going to do? Let's take a look at it.
And they're not there.
Okay. So they're hoping they won't go too far back, I guess. But hello.
Well, but and great that we're starting to get that kind of accountability, but we as parents and as individuals who are on the spectrum, we need to take some accountability ourselves and start asking for it and demanding it.
Absolutely. Also, something that comes to mind is, Department of Rehab is great, and they provide a wonderful service for our kids, and as you know, I'm to speak with someone in Washington that's head of special ed for Department of Education soon.
Yes.
And this is one of my talking points to her is, why are we putting Band-Aids over bullet holes? Why are we waiting for Department of Rehab to have to get our kids jobs?
Right.
I mean, it's like, what kind of crazy money are we wasting, for one thing?
Right.
And why aren't we training our kids to do job skill sets in the public school system?
Yes.
So that we don't have to wait till, Department of Rehab, here's my son.
Yeah.
He's now 24. He can't get a job.
Right.
Well, that's because at 14, when we should have been doing our homework and our job in a school system, we haven't been preparing him to work. Not only have we been not giving him the pre-employment skills that he needs in order to get a job, like how important is it to have an email address, and do you know how to schedule your life? But we haven't been training him to do anything either. So 18 to 22-year-olds are transitioning with no job skill set that equates to a 0 paycheck. And then we're going, we'll wait for 2 years and he doesn't get a job. He's tried everywhere. Now we're going to pass him to Department of Rehab?
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's like it doesn't take a Rhodes Scholar.
Right.
Let's go back into the public school system, revamp how we're educating individuals with disabilities. If you're on a non-diploma track, then why aren't we teaching you how to do something that equates to a job?
Absolutely.
That's all I'm asking.
It's the question to ask.
It is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And so then I was writing an article for Autism Asperger's Digest.
Yes.
It took me 6 months to write, and it was a follow-up to A Seat at the Table that I wrote during the Temple Grandin and Friends event. And I was like, wait a minute, what happened to vocational training?
Yeah.
Because we used to have vocational training in our school systems, right?
Yes.
So I said, well, I Googled that question. What happened to voc ed?
Yeah.
Well, now I know.
What happened?
In 2017, the country, as a country, came together and said, not everyone's going to go to college in 2017. I'm sorry.
I was like, well, that's a year from now.
1917.
1917
is when vocational training centers came into being in this country. And so they said, well, in 1917, we should be training individuals to do jobs.
Right.
All individuals.
Yes.
There was no segregation. We're not talking about people with disabilities, non-people with disabilities. We're just talking about everybody.
Right.
Everybody might not be going an educational route. We should be training and teaching them in a public school system.
Yes.
A job.
Yes.
Woodworking, metalworking, electricity.
Certainly existed
plumbing.
when I was in school.
Right. But not to the degree it used to. It started like fading off.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, 1917? Wow. Research. It's the best education.
Yes.
The best medicine ever. It's the power, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, well, then what happened to it? Yeah. Then I had to say, well, when did it all stop?
Right.
Like, what happened?
Yes.
Guess what happened? I didn't know it.
Yeah, tell me.
When Bush came in with No Child Left Behind in 2000, they made the accountability for credentialed teachers so high because it was to teach reading and to teach writing, because we were losing so many of our kids to the streets and no jobs and cradle to graving as far as services go for,
for anybody who had any kind of a disability.
Exactly, or no disability at all, just families.
Yes.
Whole families were being cradled to grave because with welfare, because we lost them. They couldn't read and write. Can't read and write. Not a good shot at a job.
We're not setting them up for success.
Not setting up for success. So what happened was Bush's No Child Left Behind came in and said, that means we're going to have to ask more of our credentialed teachers in order to teach the kids that are not learning to read and not learning to do math. How are we going to do that? We're going to up the credentialing process. We're going to make our teachers qualified. That's when that whole saying, qualified credentialed teachers came in. Guess what? A lot of our voc ed teachers were not qualified on the same level academically as, because they taught woodworking, they taught metalworking.
So they didn't have a PhD in that.
Sets.
They didn't have a master's degree in it.
That's right. And when their contracts came up for renewal and they transitioned, or they just retired out of the system, they were not replaced. So that's what happened to vocational centers.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you're...
I did not know when I went in writing that article. I just didn't know why we didn't have him anymore. I thought maybe people didn't think there was a need anymore. Maybe they didn't want him anymore. No, they just faded away because they didn't meet the credentialing criteria. And nobody said anything. Nobody thought, well, how's that going to affect us 20 years down the road? Now, 16 years down the road, we're going, aha, it's really affected us. And Washington's going, what happened to the ITP process?
Why are we not teaching and training our kids to do something? And they're like, well, we don't have any centers anymore.
There's no place
How can we do it? Wow, and this is why we're thrilled that Joanne's on the job, because I wouldn't know that, and I wouldn't know what to do about that, but she will, and will follow in your snowshoes.
Yes.
So where can people go to find out more about Autism Works Now?
On the site, autismworksnow.org.
Okay.
On the website.
So if you're in the Los Angeles area and you know someone that's a student that would like to participate in that, go
Email,
there.
call.
Yep, and then ask your regional center provider to get that set up for you. If you are anyplace else in the country, when's the book going to be done and out?
We deliver end of January, so
Okay.
it hasn't. In my last book, Autism Movement Therapy Method, Autism Movement Therapy Method, we delivered in March, and it was out 6 months later.
Right.
So it's about a 6-month turnaround.
Okay.
So we're looking at July, I think,
Okay.
of
All
2017.
right, so a little less than a year, so you can start getting your ducks in a row and be ready for that, and be talking to people about who's going to run that program for you locally with the curriculum, right?
We want it replicated.
Get it, start
the
getting
goal.
your ducks in a row for that. That's a wonderful thing to do.
The goal is replication across the globe.
And in the meantime, if you are not registered to vote, get registered to vote. If you have adult children who are on the autism spectrum, no. If you know people that are over the age of 18 that aren't registered to vote, it doesn't matter to me whether they're on the spectrum or not.
Right.
Get them registered
Rock
to vote.
the vote.
Rock the vote.
.org, I think it's a dot. They are a nonprofit, I believe.
Rockthevote.org.
And also, Disability Pride Parade,
Yes.
October 9th
October
in Downey.
9th, be there. Samantha and I will be there. Joanne will be there.
Rio will be there. Spencer will be there. Luke Rose will be there. Lacey Brink will be there. You've got to come be with us.
And if you can't get to Downey, look and see if there's an event near you. Get involved.
It's the first Pride Parade, Disabilities Pride Parade in California.
Wonderful. But in other states, I know that they're doing Get the Vote events, and I know that they've got. It may not be with a disability attached to it, but they're doing, Get Out the Vote, and they have voting booths set up in different places.
Right.
Look in your area and go be there. And I don't care how old your child is,
Yes.
take them and have them visit those booths and practice.
Also look at the proposal agenda for both candidates that are now running.
Yes,
For
please.
President of the United States of America, and look at their disabilities agenda and their platform, because the Democratic candidate has a very thorough autism agenda.
Yes.
And it's well worth reading. Early intervention,
Yes.
early screening, all intervention developmental services needed, all the way through residential and employment encompasses, and that would be the Democratic candidate.
And we have had Tony Coelho on not on this show, although I want to invite him to come back and be on the show. We did an interview with him on The Future is Bright. He is an amazing individual,
he's great.
A former state representative for the state of California. He was one of the co-authors of ADA. An amazing gentleman who has been very vocal for the disability community, in particular the epilepsy community, because he has epilepsy.
That's right.
But he cares about all disabilities, and he is the Clinton advisor for disabilities. We've had him on the show. We have reached out to the Trump campaign to ask them for their person to come on. We've reached out to them to ask them for their policy, and we have yet to have heard anything back.
Yeah.
So, but we do want everyone, look, read, ask questions. We'll continue to ask them, and I hope that we'll be able to, present more information to you as we get closer to the election. But if you are an individual who's on the spectrum, or you care about somebody who's on the spectrum, there's a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake.
That's
so
right.
use your vote. We're way
saying,
over time.
And we're saying
8
my
minutes over.
we are.
Yes.
My disability vote matters.
Okay,
that's our slogan.
Yeah, my disability vote matters. That's a good slogan. Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my son's friend. And thank you for helping all of us to understand all the things you help us to understand.
It's always my pleasure.